Hello Junior 3, today we will talk about acacia tree and water lily. We will begin with acacia tree. Acacia tree lives in the desert, hot and dry weather. Firstly, we will talk about the trunk of acacia tree. Trunk. Here is the trunk. The trunk is short and splits into 3 or 2 main trunks just above the ground. The tree spreads wide instead of growing tall. Roots are very long. Why? To reach the underground because it lives in the desert where the weather is hot and dry. So from where it can obtain the water? From underground water. So here we can say that the trait that makes the acacia tree survive is long roots. It helped it to reach the underground water in the hot and dry weather. Now we will talk about leaves. They grow at the top of the branches, spread out wide in the shape of umbrella, like that, in the shape of umbrella. The branches have thorns. The branches عندهم thorns. ايه thorns دول؟ They prevent animals from eating it. So we can consider the thorns as a trait that helped the acacia tree also to survive because it prevented animals from eating its leaf. So if we talked about water lily, here we have 2 traits that help the acacia tree. We have 2 traits that help the acacia tree to survive. First, long roots that help the acacia tree to reach the underground water in hot and dry weather. The second are thorns in the branches of the leaves that prevented the animals from eating the leaves. This is all about the acacia tree. Now we will talk about water lily. Water lily is called lotus. Live in fresh water. What is meant by fresh water? Fresh water means not salt, like rivers, for example. Like that in this figure. Round leaves, round large leaves, and the flower is colorful, and the petals of flower are round triangle, where the stem is very long. Why? To fix the plant into the water. Okay, let's talk in details. Stem is too long and flexible to fix or anchor the plant in the mud at the bottom of the water. Okay, we can consider this trait is a trait that helped the water lily to survive because the stems or very long stems helped it to be fixed in the mud. Okay, flower. The flower are large colorful petals in the shape of round triangle. The petals are round triangle like that, but rounded from the top. Okay, they open few hours during the morning and then closes again. This property made the ancient Egyptian associated the water lily flower with the sun because it opens in the day and closes in the night like the sun. Okay, and associated it also with the idea of rebirth. The idea of rebirth is a thought in an ancient Egyptian life. The ancient Egyptians thought about the rebirth, where a person died and then rebirth again. So they associated the water lily with this idea. Okay. The last thing we will talk about is leaves. Leaves are large, rounded. Why? To float on the water surface. Why? Also to attract sunlight. Leaf upper surface is covered with wax layer. Why? To keep the water out. Leaf lower surface has also thorns like the branches of acacia tree to protect it from fish and other organisms from eating it. So we can consider the thorns in the lower layer of the rounded leaves in lily flower as traits that help the acacia tree to survive. Also the wax layer above the leaves of the lily flower, okay, and so on. Here we will talk about the importance of water lily in the life of ancient Egyptians. All textbooks which are written by historians talked about the water lily and their importance in the life of ancient Egyptian. Photographs took many photos about water lily. The artwork by ancient Egyptians and also the artifacts by ancient Egyptian. All of those talked about the importance of water lily. Now we will talk about blubber. Previously, we talked about the traits that helped any organism to survive. Let's talk about polar bear. Polar bear is an animal which lived in the polar habitat. Okay? So, it should adapt to the weather, the cold weather. How could the polar bear adapted to the cold weather? It had two traits that made it survive. The first is thick fur, thick white fur, and the second is blubber. Okay? Let's talk in details. The blubber is a layer of fats helped polar bear adapt to their cold weather by keeping their body temperature constant or warm to survive in their extremely cold environment. Thick fatty layer with many blood vessels act as insulating material. And now we should talk about insulating materials. Insulating materials are materials that prevent heat from transferring from place to place. Like what? Like fats, like a piece of fabric. Piece of fabric prevent heat from transferring from place to place. Like when we touch a cooking pot, a metal cooking pot, we will feel very hot and we will also burn. Okay, but when we hold the hot cooking pot by a piece of fabric, we won't feel this burn. Well, this is because the piece of fabric is an insulating material, prevent the heat transfer from the cooking pot to my hand. Okay, so we have an insulating material that may be a piece of fabric, fats, and so on. Okay, that prevents the loss of heat from body and keep the body temperature constant. The second trait that helped the polar bear to adapt to their environment, that the polar bears have thick white fur that keeps them warm in their Arctic homes, تمام, and help them to blend with the snow. Note, cold climate adaptation. How can animals adapt their cold climate? Some can shiver. يعني إيه shiver؟ يعني يترعش. To keep their muscle warm. When you move your muscles fast, you will keep yourself warm. كده بتدفي نفسك. Some fluff their feathers to trap warm air near their bodies. Okay, this is all about blubber. Now we should say that heat moves from warmer place to cooler place. As when we feel cold, heat is moved from our bodies to the surrounding environment. Let's take an example. When your hands are very cold and you touch a hot cup of tea, you feel very hot. Why? Because the heat transferred from the hot cup of tea to your hand. Okay? Not the opposite. Put right or wrong. The temperature of the water in the doubled box is less than that in the single box. This is a practical experiment. Talked about when you wear a sack in your hand, then put your hand inside the sack in a box of ice. You will feel very cold. Okay, this is the first part. When you put your hand inside the same sack, okay, in a batter, okay, then take this butter with your hand and put your hand with butter in this cold ice again. You will feel the same cold or not? No, you won't feel anything because butter is an insulating material, prevented the transfer of heat from your hand to the cold ice, so you didn't feel any cold again. Okay, so the temperature of the water in the doubled box is less than that in the single box? No, but I didn't feel it because I'm wearing an insulating material which is butter. Okay, the blubber layer help the polar bear to be warm? Yes. Heat moves from the warmer place to the cooler place. The insulator the movement of heat decreases or prevents the movement of heat. In this activity, the foam sheet represent what in the polar bear that help it not to feel cold? The blubber. Okay, complete using a given word. Adaptation traits in animals, plants is a slow, steady process. Okay, solid vegetable shortening represent thick fat layer with blood vessels. The temperature measurement inside the double-walled shortening bag was dot than inside the empty plastic bag. Higher. The dot helps polar bear blend in ice. White fur. Blubber is thick fat layer with blood vessels. Other cold climate animals dot to keep their muscle warm. They will shiver to keep their muscle warm, or dot their feathers to trap warm air, fluff their feathers. Thank you, Junior 3.